We're going to use some word problems to create and graph linear equations based on the different scenarios. So this first equation or word problem says, you finished parasailing and are being pulled back to the boat. After 2 seconds, you are 25 feet above the boat and you're going down at 10 feet per second. So we're up parasailing, so we're going to be up higher than the ground and we're being pulled back to the boat, okay? So it first says, write and graph an equation that represents your height y in feet above the boat after x seconds. Okay, so we're going to write and do this. Then we're going to see what height we are actually parasailing at, okay? Now, let me kind of start off with a few things. First off, after 2 seconds, you are 25 feet above the boat. Guys, that is a point on our graph, okay? So let's go over to the graph and start labeling what we need to know. So first off, in A, it does say that, hey, X means seconds, Y means the height in feet that we're dealing with. So I'm going to go ahead and start labeling that. So our Y is talking about the height from parasailing, and that's in feet. And then we're talking about the seconds for X. All right, so we're going to go over to 2 and up to 25. So I'm going to kind of go up by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And then I'm going to even draw another one that says 35, or yeah, 30, okay? So 10 seconds, so I'm going to go, or I'm sorry, 2 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to label my graph. So at 2:25, I'm going to go over 2 seconds up to 25 because that's what they're telling us. They said, hey, it's going to be at 25 feet happens when we're at 2 seconds after being pulled down. Now it also says we're being pulled down 10 feet per second. That is a rate, okay? So our rate is going to be a negative 10 feet per second, and it's negative because we're going down, all right? Now that's also our slope. Our slope is negative 10. Okay, so now let's get into what we were learning about. We have to write our equation, okay? So our first step is to find your slope. Look, we found it. Our second step is to plug things into y equals mx plus b, okay? Now we have our m, we have an x from our point, and a y. So we're just going to plug it in. Instead of y equals, it's going to be 25 equals. Our m is negative 10 times x, which is 2, plus b. Okay, now our third step is to find out what b is by solving. So I do 25 equals negative 10 times 2, which is negative 20, plus b. I add 20 to the other side and get 45 equals b. Now our final step is to write our equation. Our equation involves us finding b, our y-intercept, and having slope put in there as well. So our final step in our final equation is y equals negative 10x plus 45, okay, and that's our equation. So if I were to graph this, we have a slope of negative 10, okay. Now, I did not do my y-intercept, my y-axis too well with the graphing. I should be going up to 45, but I don't have room for that. So I'm going to go from the point we already made, which is 225, and I'm going to use my slope of negative 10. I'm going to go down 10, and then over 1. So I went from 25 to 15 and over 1. And then I'm going to go down 10 again to 5, and I'm going to go over 1 as well. And so I have this not straight at all graph. Hopefully yours is straighter than mine, okay? So it said to write and graph an equation. We did that. Now it says, at what height were you parasailing? Now guys, if we were looking at our equation of y equals negative 10x plus 45, negative 10 was our rate, and negative and positive 45 is our starting point. It's our y-intercept. Guys, this is where we started from. We started at 45 feet above the water, or above the boat, and that's your answer. The next scenario talks about a kite, and we're pulling down the kite at 2 feet per second, and after 3 seconds, your kite is 54 feet above you. So what you're going to do is the exact same thing as before. You're going to start graphing some things. You're going to have a slope, and you're going to have to write your equation. So use the earlier example to help you out, and pause the video, come back and check your answers. Make sure you do graph and label your graph correctly, and then answer B. See what height the kite was flying at. All right, guys, so I went ahead and graphed my graph. Now you should have a negative slope of -2 since our kite is being pulled down negative 2 feet per second, because that's the negative action. After 3 feet, you should be up at 54 for the amount of feet above the ground or above you that your kite is. So make sure the graph's correct. Also make sure that you have the correct equation. And it says at what height was the kite flying. That's our starting point, just like earlier. It's our y-intercept. It's 60 feet.